Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton may have just received the worst news of their political lives. So yesterday it was announced that the DOJ is launching a grand jury investigation over all things Russiagate. The initial reaction, the initial prediction was that this grand jury would be based in Washington, D.C. And as we all know, D.C. overwhelmingly voted for Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, right? So if this grand jury was in D.C., the prediction, the logic goes that they would just throw this case out. No charges, no indictments would be brought. Well, it turns out that this case, this grand jury, could actually be assembled in Florida. Take a look at this reporting from John Solomon.
This is a major development. We told you last week that Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, had given permission for a strike force to begin. That's a very specific tool the Justice Department uses on major conspiracies. And we told you then we would know it was getting serious when the grand jury jumped into action. We now know that a grand jury will be impaneled. Most likely, my sources are telling me, it could be in Florida, where the raid of President Trump's Mar-a-Lago home happened. So that is the very latest. You can check it out at Just the News. We're going to have a whole lot more on that over the course of the next.
If you're not familiar with John Solomon, he is the founder of JustTheNews.com, and he's someone who is generally quite spot on with his reporting, is very well connected with Washington, D.C., and as you saw there in his clip, he's not someone who over-exaggerates. He's not someone who tries to rile people up and dive into sensationalism. As you can tell from his website name, Just the News, he is focused on the facts and really works hard to get those facts out there before the mainstream media even gets them. So this gets me excited. Now, it's not just one source saying that this grand jury is likely going to be in Florida. The other source we're getting is actually a former federal prosecutor. Yeah, it's not a random influencer, not a journalist, but someone who actually has experience prosecuting high-profile individuals, and that is Joe DiGenova.
And I pretty much think I know where it's going to go. It's probably going to go to Florida because Attorney General Pam Bondi just sent the entire Obama matter involving Brennan Clapper and all to a prosecutor to present to a grand jury. She didn't say which prosecutor it had been sent to, but this kind of makes up for the absence of a quorum in the Senate. And it now means that the matter that you talked about earlier is now going to be investigated by a federal grand jury. And I pretty much think I know where it's going to go. It's probably going to go to Florida because yesterday the Senate confirmed only 2 U.S. attorneys, Jeanine Pirro for D.C., there's no Obama case going to D.C., and Jason Redding Quinones to be the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Miami, which just happened to be where Mar-a-Lago is. My guess, the case is going to that gentleman in Miami.
When it comes to justice, it's easy to get jaded and feel like there is a double standard and that Democrats are never held responsible for their crimes. But we now have 2 separate sources completely unaffiliated with each other saying that this grand jury is likely going to be put together in Florida. Not just Florida, but Miami. And President Trump won Miami-Dade in 2024. This is a massive update, much more favorable to have this in Florida than it would be in Washington, D.C. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with what a grand jury is, it is a group of approximately 16 to 23 individuals, citizens, who are impaneled to look over and review all of the evidence. They can ask questions, they can request for testimony, they can ask if there's any more evidence that they can see, and it's their job to look at all of this and determine whether or not there's probable cause, to determine and decide whether or not to bring indictments and charges forward. What's brilliant about this strategy is that charging a former president, Barack Obama, as well as Hillary Clinton, would be politically fraught. The Democrats and the media would say it's a political witch hunt. They would say that this is all just revenge and retribution and that there's nothing serious here. Well, if it was coming from a prosecutor, that would be a charge. But if the grand jury makes that recommendation, it would be an indictment. And what this is this is just another layer to protect President Trump's DOJ, to basically say, hey, we're going to let a group of people, normal citizens, look over all of the evidence and determine, hey, do we think based on what we see that there's probable cause to investigate this further? And you can tell based on how the media is reacting that, yeah, there probably is a really good chance that this would go to Florida, Miami, And if this is in Florida, then my money would be on indictments and charges being brought forward. Like I said, you can tell that this is probably the likely path based on how the media is reacting. It reminds me of 2016, right? When President Trump, according to them, had no shot of winning the presidency. They laughed at him. They called him a joke. They made fun of him. They had skits. They just treated him with kid gloves. But then when they realized, oh, President Trump could actually win this thing, that's when they started panicking. That's when they went into overdrive. That's when all this Russia collusion talk started. And so we're sort of seeing the same thing here. There had been all the declassified document data dumps from DNI Tulsi Gabbard. The media didn't really care. They said, oh, it's just a conspiracy theory. There's nothing here. And then all of a sudden, in the last 24 to 48 hours, once this grand jury was announced, the media has changed their tune. They went from, oh, there's nothing here, this is a joke, this is nonsense, to full-blown panic mode. But before I show you that clip, I would like to acknowledge Houston Sammy Girl, RL1401. Always good to see both of you, as well as On a Dime with 2 nickels. These are people who give tips and super thanks to the channel. I am so glad that you enjoy and that you are here. We'll take a look at this meltdown on Morning Joe that happened this morning.
Jonathan Ramirez, this is extraordinarily stupid. It's extraordinarily stupid on so many counts. If you look at the timeline doesn't add up. It's like when Donald Trump is saying that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton created the Epstein files. No. That all happened during Donald Trump's first term. You look at the timeline here about what happened and when it happened. Barack Obama had nothing to do with this by anybody's accounts, and especially by the Senate Republican Intelligence Committee run by Marco Rubio, who afterwards said that it was Donald Trump's 2016 campaign that created a, quote, grave counterintelligence threat to the United States of America. That was Marco Rubio, the current Secretary of State. That was every Republican on the Senate Intel Committee. After pouring through all of the documents, that's what they found. And when poor John Durham was made to sacrifice his professional career to go around the world investigating the investigators, he found nothing and ended up making a fool of himself. I mean, we even found out that the 2 documents that supposedly, fed into the Clinton conspiracy, that she was the one pushing this, actually was Russian disinformation. So, again, they know in the Justice Department.
I don't know about you, but to me, that sounds like a lot of panic there. He was making a lot of statements, but he actually didn't provide any evidence to back up what he was saying. Unlike what I attempt to do on this channel, which is make statements, and that's why I show you screenshots. That's why I share articles from various news sources. Over the last few weeks, I've been going over these newly declassified documents. First of all, the timeline began in August 2016, August 31st, 2016, the original presidential daily briefing was saying that, hey, the intelligence community assessment has no evidence, has no reason to believe that Russia is interfering or can sway votes or that President Trump is colluding with Russia. And they kept that same statement. They kept that same story all the way through the election. It wasn't until after the election. It wasn't until after President Obama convened a meeting in the Oval Office that suddenly, whoa, they changed their mind. And we have this in writing per the president's request. After President Obama requested that they reevaluate everything, all of a sudden they changed their tune and they pushed out a different narrative. It's funny how that works out. Then Joe Scarborough had the gall to invoke the Durham report. The problem with that, of course, is that the annex of the Durham report was kept secret. It was classified over all of these years until last week when Senator Chuck Grassley made it available online. And we found out that, yeah, there was evidence suggesting that Hillary Clinton was behind the creation of Russiagate itself. And that's on top of all of the discrepancies when it came to Obama's intelligence community. Now, Joe Scarborough claimed that, well, the FBI disproved it and they found that it was Russian misinformation. Oh, is that right? Because the annex of the Durham report says the exact opposite. It says that the FBI, the CIA, the intelligence community never verified or debunked those allegations. They never even looked into it. And isn't that strange? When you consider all of the resources, all of the attention that was put on Russiagate, this one accusation they couldn't even look into to verify or debunk it, it was just totally overlooked and totally ignored. Last but not least, Joe Scarborough also wanted to invoke Marco Rubio and other Republicans who supposedly were against President Trump when it came to Russiagate. But there's just one problem. You can only make a judgment, you can only make an assessment based on the facts that are available to you. And as we've learned over the last few weeks, many of these documents were hidden. They had to be declassified. This took years. This took almost a decade for all of this to come out. And quite frankly, if you don't change your mind when new evidence comes to light, then you should probably search deep. Do you have preconceived notions or biases that are preventing you from changing your mind when new evidence comes to light? Just a question for you, Joe Scarborough. Well, things got a lot worse, especially for the Clintons, because it's not just about this grand jury investigation, which looks like it will take place in Florida, but it's also about the Epstein investigation. Earlier today, Representative James Comer announced the House Oversight Committee is compelling the following individuals to appear for depositions through issued subpoenas. Hillary Clinton is set to testify on October 9th, Bill Clinton October 14th. Many familiar names here, from Merrick Garland all the way to Robert Mueller to Jeff Sessions. I mean, this is going to be a crazy fall. But as always, all of this is just my analysis and commentary. That's what's going on in the world of politics from my point of view, and I would love to hear from you. So over my last few videos, as I was going over and explaining the newly declassified documents, whether from Tulsi Gabbard or from Chuck Grassley, a lot of commenters basically were on the same page saying, hey, this is great, we have evidence, but I doubt anything's going to happen. They're going to get away with it like they always do. Well, my question for you is, now that you know that this grand jury is likely, potentially going to be in Florida, does that change your mind? Do you think that having this grand jury in Florida could actually result in indictments and charges being brought against Obama, Obama intelligence officials, Clinton, people in the Clinton campaign? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you haven't already, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me reach more viewers like you in the algorithm. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.